right, so to get started, I am going to be using Joann Fabrics brand of yarn, which is Big Twist. I've got a 6mm hook here. I do have a row counter. I just recommend that. And then you are going to need a darning needle because we're going to have a couple ends for the strap that we're going to weave in. So overall, and then some shears, obviously, or scissors. And I'm going to go ahead down in the comments, as always, have your timestamps and then also your stitch count. So refer to that. And moving forward, let's go ahead and move into row 1. Alrighty, row 1. So we are going to make a slip knot, okay? So go ahead and have the tail behind your fingers. You're gonna wrap it in front, kind of make an X there. And then what I do is have that tail there. I pinch it, I take my hook, and I pull, okay? Super quick and easy way. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna chain 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Go ahead and slip stitch to the first chain here. We're gonna create a ring, okay? So yarn over and pull through both loops on your hook. All right, and so now what we're gonna do is yarn over, and we're going to chain 1, and you're going to chain 1 at the beginning of all of my rows, no matter what pattern you're doing with me. And I'm going to pull this tail just to tighten it up some, and I will be crocheting over this tail, okay? So now, this chain 1 that you do at the beginning of every row is not going to count as anything. It's just going to lift up our stitch, okay? So now we're going to place 12 double crochets in this ring. So yarn over, go into the ring, okay? And we're going to pull up a loop. So yarn over, pull up your loop, yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2, okay? So now that I have my first one there, I'm going to pull that tail over, and I'll do a second double crochet with you. We're going to yarn over, go into the ring, also have the tail over our hook. We're going to pull up our loop. We're going to yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2. So go ahead and put 10 more double crochets in the ring. All right, we're going to move into row 2. And to get row 2 started, we are going to be slip stitching to the top of our first double crochet. So go ahead and put your hook into both loops. Yarn over and pull through all 3 loops on your hook. Now, I'm going to pull my tail nice and tight, and I'm also going to pull this tail up because I'm going to crochet over top of it, okay? So, for this row, super simple, what we're going to do is place 2 double crochets in the top of every stitch. So chain 1 to lift up your hook. So yarn over, and we're going to go into that same double crochet that we slip stitched into. Pull up your loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Now do that again. We're going to yarn over, go into the same stitch for a second one. Pull up your loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So go ahead and place 2 double crochets in every stitch all the way around, and I'll meet you for row 3. You're going to have, check your stitch count, but it should be 24 stitches for this row. All right, moving into row 3. We are going to do the same thing that we did to begin row 2. We're going to slip stitch into the top of our first double crochet here, okay? So we're going to chain 1 to get started. Now what you're going to do is place 2 double crochets into this first stitch, okay? So 1, go back into that same stitch, and 2. Into the next stitch, you're going to place a double crochet. And that's our repeat. Okay, let's do it one more time together. Into the first stitch, we're going to place 2 double crochets. So 1 and 2. Into the second stitch, we're going to place 1 double crochet. So go ahead and repeat that all the way around, and you're going to have 36 double crochets at the end of this round. All right, so row 4 is going to be only for a 1.5 liter bag. So if you're doing the 750 milliliter bag, go ahead and slip stitch here to the first double crochet to wrap up row 3 and pop on over to the first repeat row down in the timestamp, okay? But for the 700 or the 1.5 liter bag, this is going to be row 4's repeat. So you're going to place 2 double crochets in this first double crochet, 1 and 2, and then you'll place a double crochet into the next 2 stitches. So 1 and then 2. So you'll have 4 here for your repeat total. So let's do it again over the next 3 stitches. We're going to place 2 double crochets in the first stitch, and 1 double crochet into the second stitch, and 1 double crochet into the third stitch. Okay, and that's all your repeat is. Now this row, remember, if you're doing a 750 milliliter bag, you don't need to do this row, but for the 1.5 liter, you'll go ahead and complete this and slip stitch to the top of your first row. But I'll meet you guys for the first repeat row of the body. All right, so this is repeat row 1, and I've already slip stitched because I'm doing the 750 milliliter. So what we're going to do is make sure you've already got your chain 1. So your first stitch for the repeat is going to be a front post double crochet. So we're going to yarn over, we're going to go behind this first double crochet and out the other side. Yarn over and pull up a loop. Yarn over, pull through 2. Yarn over, pull through 2. Okay, now we're going to place a double crochet into the top of each of these next 2 stitches. So 1 and then 2. And you're going to repeat that all the way around. So let's do it one more time together. We're going to yarn over, we're going to go behind the post, yarn over, pull up your loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Then into the next 2 stitches, you'll place double crochets. So 1 and 2. If you're doing a 750 milliliter bag, you are going to have the repeat a total of 12 times, and you'll have the repeat a total of 16 times for a 1.5 liter bag. But all that's down in the comments, so you can double check, but I'll meet you at the end for repeat row 2. All right, so repeat row 2. I'm gonna flip this a little bit so you can start to see it building, but we're gonna slip stitch to the top of this first front post double crochet to get started. We're going to chain 1 and we're going to turn our work. Now we're going to place a double crochet into that first stitch, okay, which was the one that we slip stitched into. Now into our double crochets from repeat row 1, we're going to yarn over and do front post double crochets. So go behind that post, pull up your loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, go behind the next one, pull up your loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And that's all the repeat is. So let's do it again. We're going to place a double crochet into the top of the front post double crochet. And then we're going to place front post double crochets around the double crochets. So 1 and then 2. All right. Now when you get to the end of this row, what you're going to do is you're going to slip stitch, you'll chain and turn. And so you're going to turn at the end of every row. And for each of these bags, a really quick note is that the waffle stitch count of how many rows of squares you should have isn't really listed because every wine bottle is a little bit different. And I always stop my waffle stitch squares right at the base of the screw cap. If you have a bottle with, if you're planning on having a bottle with a cork, a good rule of thumb is about 1 centimeter below where the top of the cork is, you're going to stop. And And so some of my 750 milliliter bags have like 15 rows, some of them have 17. Some of my 1.5 liter bags have, like, depending on the yarn or the bottle, it's like anywhere from 16 to like 21 rows of squares. So that is why there really isn't a suggestion on how many rows of squares. You're just gonna use the bottle that you're planning on working with and measure from there, okay? However, if you don't have a wine bottle, then I do suggest about 15 or 16 rows for a 750 milliliter bag, or you're gonna do like 19 to 21 rows, I believe. 1, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, yeah. It's like 17 to 21 rows for the 1.5 liters. But the best way to do it is to make sure you have the wine bottle you plan on gifting with, and then just kind of measuring it when you get to the top of that cap, okay? All right, so moving into the last row here, all you are going to do is go back into the stitch that you slip stitched to, and we're going to place a single crochet. So pull up your loop, yarn over, and pull through 2. Go ahead and place a single crochet all the way around and slip stitch to your first single crochet, and I will meet you for the strap. All right, moving into row 1 of this wine bag. So before we move on, you're actually going to count to the 19th stitch for a 750 milliliter bag, or you're going to count to the 25th stitch and place a stitch marker, okay? So for row 1, what you're going to do is place 5 single crochets, okay? And that's all this first row is, okay? All right, so now we're going to move into row 2. We're going to chain 1. We're going to turn our work, and we're going to place 5 single crochets, okay? So now for a 750 milliliter bag, you are going to have 15 rows, and for a 1.5 liters, you'll have 19 rows, and then you're going to fasten off and weave in your end, okay? And then I'll meet you at the stitch marker. All right, so you can see I wrapped up my first side here, weaved in my end. And for those of you that are curious, what I do to weave in the ends is I weave it through, and then I come down to the next row, I come down to the 3rd row, and I go back through the 2nd row for like a zigzag so that it stays pretty tightly. So now what we're gonna do, regardless of what size bag you're working on, you're gonna come over to your stitch marker. Again, for the small bag, you should be at the 19th stitch. For the larger bag, you'll be at the 25th stitch. Now, I am not going to do any sort of slip knot. I'm not going to do anything other than stick my hook in that stitch, okay? I'll pull out my stitch marker, and now what I'm going to do is actually catch the yarn. I'm just going to fold it over my hook, and I'm going to pull it through that loop, okay? Now, I'm going to pull my tail through to the front, and to secure it, I'm going to do a chain. And now all I'm going to do is repeat the other rows 1 through 15, or row 1 through 19 for the second side of the strap. But for this first row, what I'm going to do is place my 5 single crochets over this tail so I don't have to weave it in, okay? So I'm going to do this row with you just cause, 2, to show you what I do, because I like to show you guys my little veteran tricks. 3, and we've got, what, 4 here, and then 5, okay? Now we're gonna go ahead and make sure that we pull this tail so it's nice and taut, and what you're gonna do is fold the tail up, okay? And now you're gonna chain, and you'll turn your work and work row 2 over the tail. And depending on how long your tail is, you might work it over row 3 or row 4, okay? But all you're gonna do is keep zigzagging back and forth over your rows over that tail. So go ahead and wrap up to row 15 or row 19, and I will meet you for how we're going to attach the side 1 to side 2. Do not fasten off when you're done with this side. All right, so I've got my 15 rows here on both sides. You might have 19 because you might be doing the 1.5 liters. I'm going to chain 1, and now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to turn this over so I'm working from side 1. Now, what I'm going to do is enter into the front loop of my strap side 1, okay? And on my second strap, I'm going to go into the back loop only, okay? So see how my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I'm going to go into this back loop. So technically these loops are the top of the bag, okay? Now pull my yarn real nice and taut, and I'm going to slip stitch through all 3 on my hook, okay? We're going to repeat that 4 more times. Go into the front loop on side 1, go into the back loop on side 2, slip stitch through all 3, pull nice and tight. Now do it a 3rd time. Into the front loop, then into the back loop, pull through all 3. Okay, let's do it a 4th time. Sometimes it's a little difficult for me. All right, we're going to pull through all 4. Now, this 5th one, because I weaved in the ends, is going to be pretty tight. But we're going to go through the front loop and then the back loop. Okay. We're going to pull through all 3. And we're going to chain 1. We're going to flip our strap, and we're just going to repeat that. We're going to go through 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, see, this one's going to be pretty tight. The first one, because I weaved in that in. We're going to go through the first side and through the second side. And you'll do that. You'll slip stitch 5 times across. You'll chain 1, and then you'll weave in your end. Okay, so that's all this bag is. Congratulations, you have your waffle stitch wine bag, and thanks for tuning in, and check out more patterns or tarot reads for a little more fun on the channel.